Hi, welcome to Pregnant and Barefoot. I'm Kristen, and in this video I'm going to talk about my miscarriages. I get asked if I have ever had any miscarriages, and I can understand asking that question. Considering I have 5 kids, people kind of assume that fertility is easy for me, and I wouldn't necessarily call it easy for us. I think that we're definitely blessed, and I think that the Lord's hand has been in every single part of our relationship, including having our children. But when we first started trying with our first son, it was only a couple months after we got married. I was really kind of whipped behind the ears. I had no idea about any sort of anything, which is kind of funny as to like who I am now and how I love pregnancy, birth, trying to conceive, all of that stuff. I mean, that's essentially where this channel came from. So when I think back, I laugh at myself, and I think it's kind of cute to think of all of the silly things that I used to do. Like when I first heard about taking your basal body temperature, I just would go and like, oh, I wonder if my temperature is up even just a little bit. I had no idea, and obviously that I couldn't hold any truth into any of those readings, but I look back at that now and I'm like, oh, how cute. So anyway, when we first started trying, before we conceived our almost 12-year-old, I did get pregnant and I lost that baby, but I didn't realize it at the time. Again, I was really naive. My period was late, but I didn't really understand exactly tracking and all of that. And when I wound up getting my period, it was obviously not my period. It was extremely intense. I was like throwing up and I had to go and lay down, and I get heavy cycles. I'm a heavy cycle person. It runs in my family, both sides, my dad's side and my mom's side. All of the females have pretty wicked cycles. So for it to actually get to the point of where it was even more intense than that for me, kind of threw up some warning signs. And I quickly realized that I definitely was miscarrying rather than just having a heavy cycle. I was feverish, and I didn't even go and get checked out or anything. I was kind of embarrassed. I was kind of, again, I was too new to trying to conceive. I didn't have any support or anything. I was the first one out of like all of my friends to be married, no less have any children. And so so that was our first miscarriage. And then we went on to get pregnant with my son Jacob, who is going to be 12 in September, and I cannot believe that. I'm going to be a mom of a 12-year-old. What? Who stole my uterus? I had a baby 12 years ago. It wasn't me. So everything was great with conceiving him, and I wound up, I took one test when I found out I was pregnant with him. I can't even imagine. One. And I was okay with that. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm pregnant. Who was I? So then between my first and my second sons, I was late. And at this point in time, I had a lot more knowledge than what I had before. And at this time, we weren't trying quite yet. And I wanted to wait until he was 2, and then we would start trying. And because with him, it took us 3 months to conceive. Yeah. And so we weren't at that point where I wanted to start trying to conceive, but I was just starting to take track of my cycles, and I realized I was 5 days late, and I'm usually one of those people that I'm like right on time. I have very regular cycles, and I was like, well, this is odd. I don't know, maybe I was also still like, I just had my one son, and he was only like 15 months old, 16 months old, somewhere around there. And I didn't want to have to take him into the store to go and get a test because he was still so young, and I just always looked young anyway, regardless of my age. Like right now I'm 32, and I still get asked, like people are like, are you old enough to have a 12-year-old? I'm like, well, first of all, rude. Second of all, Nunya. Lastly, yes. Yes, I'm old. So that was kind of like playing in my head, like, how am I going to get to the store without people like questioning with my son? I went. I didn't care. After a while, I was like, I need to know. And it was one of those where it didn't come up like right away, like my sons did. Like with my sons, like it was seriously like I was putting the cap back on the test, and I was like, whoa, there's another line there, you know. So this time, you know, I had taken that test, and of course I didn't just wait in the bathroom. I brought it out in the living room with me, because why not, you know. And surely enough, there was like this faint line, that like haunting, like, what is that, like, type of line, you know. But I was thinking, like, well, I'm 5 days late, so it would be darker than that. And you know, so I was kind of confused, and I called my husband, and I'm like, when you get home, we're gonna have to go to the store and get another test. And you know, he was like, no way, really? Yeah. Well, yeah. So when he came in, he was like, let me see it. And sure enough, he was just like, no, there's a line there. Okay. So we went and we got another test. We came back, and when I took that test, it was then right after I had taken the test, put it down, and you know, I was finishing up, then I realized that I was starting my cycle. And I was like, well, okay, I don't really know what's going on with that. And that test then slowly came up positive too. Again, light line. But, you know, AF came on, you know, full force. So I wound up calling my OB for that one. And they were like, well, it sounds like, you know, you are miscarrying, but if you want to get checked, you could come in. And I was like, well, let me see what happens. And they gave me the warning signs, and I didn't have any of the warning signs at all. So we just kind of were like, all right, well, I guess I miscarried. That was miscarriage number 2. And then it took me 6 months then, once we tried to have my second son, to conceive. And because those, we were trying for my boys. You know, we weren't trying for boys, but we were trying for what then turned out to be our boys. And it took us 6 months, and I almost gave up, like, because there was a time frame that I wanted to be pregnant in. And I guess I'm really bad with calculating, because I really don't know why I wanted to be pregnant anywhere near the hot summertime. And apparently I'm only fertile one time a year, and that is to give birth during the Florida heat and melt myself to death. But, you know, whatever. I have kids from June until September. They're all 5 in that time frame. It's hot here during those months. So anywho, I wound up getting pregnant with him 6 months after trying. And again, you know, that once we wound up having him, you know, everything went smoothly. I didn't have any signs up until 13 weeks pregnant. And then at 13 weeks pregnant, you're supposed to be in that clear, you know, like that safe zone. Like whoever told anybody that, like that was like the safe zone, like that's a lie, because there really is no safe zone throughout pregnancy. I learned full and well that you could at any point in time encounter something. So, but in my head, well, I reached the 12-week mark, we're good to go. And one morning I woke up at 13 weeks and went to the bathroom, and I was like still half groggy and all this stuff, so I didn't even realize it. But luckily I didn't flush the toilet, which is really odd for me, because I'm one of those crazy people that I put the seat down because I don't like the sprays coming up. And anyway, for whatever reason it was, I didn't. And when I went back in there, I realized that there was spotting in the toilet. And I was like, what? I'm the only one home. Who did that? I guess I was in denial of some sort, because I was like, who did that? And then I realized I'm the only one. And I went to the bathroom again, and sure enough, I was still spotting. And then I checked my pajamas that I had put in the laundry, and I had been spotting in those. And then I went and I checked the bed, and I had been spotting in the bed. So I got up like early in the morning. So I guess like that plays part in it, as to why I did not have a clue as to what was going on. So anyway, I wound up going in for an ultrasound, and obviously everything's okay. He's fine now. Thank God, because that was so scary. And I was really afraid that I was going to lose him. So then after that, we had a long hiatus of we thought we were going to be done. We didn't want to have any more type of thing. And then I got the baby itch and so on and so forth. And got pregnant with my daughter Becca, and everything was great. I didn't have anything in between. No pregnancies, no miscarriages or anything. After we had her, though, I wound up getting pregnant right before her first birthday. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, I'm not ready. Like, she's only a year old. I have this rule of like 2-year difference at least, and this is definitely not within that. And my husband was ecstatic. Like, he was so excited. He was so happy. He could not wait to tell people. And I was like, no, you're keeping this quiet. And it wasn't I wasn't happy. I was just so scared. I was so petrified. And everything was fine. No issues at all. Like, I have really easy beginning pregnancies. I'm not one of those people that get sick. Thank God, because I feel so bad for some of you people. Ooh, I'm glad it's you, not me. For real. And I kind of sailed through that, and all of a sudden date night came, and because it was our anniversary and my in-laws were there, and I went to go and pick something up off of Free Cycle. And when I went to go and walk back to my car from their house, I thought I kind of either TMI, by the way, TMI. So this kind of creeps you out. Stop watching now. I thought I either had an intense amount of cervical mucus, which is not uncommon during pregnancy, especially warmer months. And I was like, all right, it's either that or like I already peed my pants and I'm only 10 weeks pregnant. And this is kind of, I mean, I know it'll be baby number 4, but you know, whatever. And I happened to have napkins in my car. So when I got in the car, I like nonchalantly like put napkins in my underwear, because seriously, like, that's what it was like. It wasn't like I could just ignore it. Like, it was, you know, and there was just a little bit of pink, but not like anything that I would be concerned about. I wasn't concerned. Went back, kind of was like, that was weird. Nothing else happened. Everything was fine. We went out. We went to dinner. We went to a comedy club. All was great. We came home that night, and right before bed, I went to the bathroom, and I was bleeding. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? And I told my husband, and he's like, you know, this happened with Alex, so not to worry, you know, we'll call the midwife in the morning if it's still happening. And it definitely was still happening. That morning, the next morning, I woke up and I was still spotting, and it was picking up, and I was a little bit crampy here and there. I called my midwife. She said there's nothing that she could do. Just take it easy. If there's anything major, like if I start bleeding really, really bad and I can't stop, you know, go to the emergency room, keep her posted, but lay down, rest, drink water, put your feet up, all this other stuff. My boys wound up going to a birthday party that day at our neighbor behind us. Like, they literally, I passed them over the fence. They climbed back over. It was a short fence, so, you know, not a big deal. Whatever. We knew our neighbors. It was good. So they went. I relaxed. It was just me, my husband, and at that time, our baby girl. And then my son came home, and he had fallen off the trampoline, and he couldn't, like, move aside, like, his arm. And I was like, oh, man, and not cool. At that point in time, my spotting had completely stopped. I was just fine. Nothing was going on. So I was like, I'm going to take him to the emergency room. My husband bowls, and it was on a Sunday, and he went bowling. He took the other ones. I took the baby and him up to the ER. And by the time we got back, my cramping was way worse. And I definitely was bleeding again. And I knew in that moment that something wasn't right. And I knew I was going to cry. So anyway, my husband came home and he asked me how everything was going, and I let him know. And he hugged me, and he was just like, all right, you know, we'll see what happens. You know, God's faithful, and he'll make everything okay. Whatever it is, we know that he's in charge. So it was. And the next morning, it was worse. There was no doubt in my mind that I was losing the baby. And I went to the bathroom, and my husband came in, And he looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." So I went to go in for a shower and he hugged me and he kissed me, and I told him how sorry I was because I felt like my body was failing him. Because he had wanted this baby so bad, and I was the one that was apprehensive about it. And I was more concerned about how it was going to fit into our schedule and our life. And I just felt like I was failing him. He never made me feel that way. It was my own insecurities, but it was rough. I wound up going for an ultrasound, and I was bleeding, and it was hard to have an internal exam for an ultrasound, knowing that the most intimate part of you is being spilled out right there on the table, and they couldn't find anything. They just found a fetal pole. And she was like, "Are you sure of your dates?" And I was like, "No, I know my dates." Long story short for that, because I'll just keep crying. I went back home. My best friend had my kids and stuff, and we wound up, after a few missed phone calls, not by my part, but that it was confirmed that I had lost the baby. And later on that night, I started really miscarrying. And it was probably one of the hardest times that my husband and I have ever gone through. At 10 weeks, it was like we knew that baby. And we didn't tell the two younger ones, but my older son, he knew something was going on. And I just let him know, that I was pregnant and I had lost the baby, and we just needed to pray, and we did. God was so faithful, and he carried us through that time, and the support that we had from our church and our friends, it was amazing, and I'm just so thankful. Our relationship with Christ grew so much during that time. I saw my husband in a completely different light. I don't think if we hadn't gone through that I would have ever seen that side of him. And I can't explain what kind of side it was. It's just, I don't know. But it was sad and it was hard, and I will always miss that baby. But it was a blessing. There were so many blessings through that. We saw faithfulness and friendship and, God's hand throughout everything. And if we hadn't lost that baby, then we would have never wound up getting pregnant with our Emma. And Emma is... she's awesome. And she's our Spitfire, and she's sassy, and she's amazing. And I am so thankful that I have her. And if I didn't lose that baby, I would have never had Emma. And then I would have never had Micah. And I'm thankful, and I'm so thankful. But right before I had Emma, before I got pregnant with Emma, there was another miscarriage. But it was like, again, I had taken the test and it was light, and then I wound up getting my cycle the next day. So it's never easy having a miscarriage, but I think it's just maybe a little less of a sting when it's right away as compared to, carrying till 10 weeks and, telling people and everything.